I was fast asleep during our Vegas vacation when I suddenly woke up at 2 a.m. to an empty bed. My husband was nowhere to be found, and his phone was dead. His location was offline. But that wasn't the worst of it. When I checked our bank account, I was shocked to see thousands of dollars in charges from a strip club. I felt like my world had been turned upside down. What was I supposed to do now? We decided to take a spontaneous trip to Vegas, just the two of us, for a quick couple of days. We arrived just yesterday, excited to unwind and have some quality time together. But little did I know, our relaxing getaway was about to take a dramatic turn. After a day of soaking up the sun and enjoying a few too many drinks, I was feeling drained and overheated. We had plans to catch a show, but I just couldn't muster the energy to make it through the evening. I told my husband to go ahead and enjoy the show without me, so I could head back to the room and get some rest. He agreed, and I drifted off to sleep, thinking he'd be back soon. Fast forward to 2 a.m., I woke up with a start, realizing my husband never came back to the room. I knew the show was at our hotel, so where was he? Panic began to set in. I frantically checked his location, but it was turned off. I sent him a text asking where he was, but he read it and ignored me. I tried calling him multiple times, but he sent me straight to voicemail. As I was trying to reach him, I noticed something that made my heart sink: 2 separate charges over $1,000 from a strip club. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It wasn't until nearly 3 a.m. that he finally responded, with a brief text saying he was on his way back. But the damage was done. My mind was racing with worst-case scenarios. 30 minutes later, my husband stumbled into the room, completely wasted. He tried to spin a tale, claiming he'd been gambling at a casino down the strip, and that the strip club charges were some kind of mistake. But I knew better. The charges had been made through Apple Pay, and he hadn't lost his phone. I couldn't believe he thought I'd buy such an obvious lie. The stench of deceit and alcohol hung heavy in the air as he swayed around the room, trying to maintain a facade that was rapidly crumbling. I was furious, hurt, and confused. Why was he still trying to deny the truth? As I dug deeper, scouring through his receipts, the truth became even more damning. It turned out he'd spent nearly 5 hours at the strip club, essentially confirming that he'd gone straight there from the show. The timeline was unmistakable. He'd left the show and headed to the strip club just 40 minutes after I'd first texted him, asking where he was. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. He'd deliberately chosen to ignore my messages and indulge in a night of debauchery, lying to me about his whereabouts and activities. The evidence was irrefutable, and I felt my trust shattering into a million pieces. As I continued to investigate, I uncovered even more shocking evidence. If all the pending charges went through, he would have blown nearly $6,000 at the strip club. When confronted, he insisted he hadn't cheated on me, claiming nothing sexual had happened. But I couldn't shake off the feeling that he was downplaying the truth. 5 hours in a strip club, especially in a state of extreme intoxication, leaves a lot of room for imagination, and none of it was good. The uncertainty was suffocating me. The fact that I might never know the full truth was perhaps the most painful part of all. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and I couldn't help but wonder what else he might be hiding. We cut our trip short and flew home a day early, the tension between us palpable. As I sat in silence, trying to process everything that had happened, I couldn't help but wonder where our relationship was headed. We'd been together for 7 incredible years and married for almost 4 years, just a couple of months shy of our anniversary. The thought of potentially losing everything we'd built together was devastating. I felt lost and uncertain, unsure of how to move forward or if I even wanted to. The future of our relationship hung in the balance, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered trust. As I reflect on our marriage, I thought we were in a great place. No red flags, no history of infidelity. That's what makes this betrayal so devastating. His actions were completely out of character, and I'm left feeling shattered, crushed, and deeply disappointed. He recklessly gambled with our finances, my trust, and our marriage, causing immeasurable pain. The fact that we were on a romantic getaway, and he chose to spend his time and our money at a strip club instead of with me, is a harsh reality I'm struggling to accept. I'd love to hear from anyone who's navigated a similar situation with their partner. Your insights and advice would be invaluable. Thank you for taking the time to read my story.
Story 2.
Am I wrong for not wanting to give some family heirlooms to my other relatives? I'm wondering if it's okay to keep them for myself or if I should share them with others in my family. My dad passed away earlier this year, just 2 months after being diagnosed with cancer. I'm his youngest child, 30 years old. My older sisters, 49 and 46 years old, haven't been in close contact with him for a long time, over 14 years. They have a different mom than me. My dad wasn't super close with the rest of our family either, but that was just how things were in his generation and where he grew up. I made it a point to visit my dad as often as I could, and we would regularly talk and text each other. When he was in the hospital, my mom, who had been divorced from him for over 20 years, and I were by his side almost every day until he passed away. My mom and I kept my sisters and aunt, my dad's sister, informed about his health while he was in the hospital. After he died, we took care of the funeral arrangements and invited the rest of the family to come see him before the cremation, but no one showed up. We also cleaned out his house and sorted through his belongings. My dad's other family barely acknowledged his passing, only sending a brief group text to offer condolences to each other. There were no Facebook tributes, no Father's Day posts, and no real interest in attending his memorial service. The only thing they've done since he passed away is insist on hiring an estate lawyer to handle his affairs, which has already taken a big chunk of the estate's limited funds. My dad lived on a low income most of his life. What's been hard for me is that before he passed away, my dad shared some special instructions with me. He told me about his mother's wedding rings and his father's WW2 medals, and where I could find them. He made it clear that he wanted me to have these precious items after he was gone. When my mom and I were cleaning out his house, we found these exact items, and I took them, just as my dad had asked me to do. I've had these family heirlooms in my home for almost 6 months now, but recently, my dad's oldest daughter has been claiming that I shouldn't have them. She says they belong to my aunt since they originally belonged to her parents. I've received several texts from both of them about this. My aunt is being more understanding, saying she'd like to borrow them for a while before returning them to me. On the other hand, the oldest daughter is demanding that I hand them over to her and take something else of my dad's instead. I'm feeling really torn, angry, and sad about this situation. I want to trust that I'll get these family heirlooms back if I lend them out. But the way my dad's oldest daughter and aunt have been acting or not acting makes me doubt that I'll ever see them again. I'm unsure if I'm wrong for not wanting to give them up. Should I just keep them to protect myself from potentially losing them forever? I'm really struggling with what to do.